We got 2 weeks now in the books of the NFL season, and there are some studs available for big-time discounts right now. I'm going to be breaking down 5 wide receivers that you guys can buy on the low, on the cheap right now, and some guys that you should be selling high right now at the wide receiver position. Danny will be covering running backs later today, so stay tuned for that. If you guys enjoyed this video, if you get some value from it, leave a like down below, subscribe to the channel if you guys are new around here. Now let's get into it. All right, a reminder, and I will do this every single week until it's drilled into your guys' brains. What we're doing with buy lows and sell highs in fantasy football is identifying what these players are, what their market value is, and determining if there's a discrepancy between the two right now. If the market views them as better than they are, they're a sell. If the market views them as worse than they are, then they are a buy. So the first guy that we're going to get into, and I believe the market was quite high on this guy coming into the season, but they may have soured just a little bit so far, is Ja'Marr Chase, wide receiver of the Cincinnati Bengals. There is no cheaper fantasy football superstar on the market right now than Ja'Marr Chase. I don't need to sit here and tell you how good Ja'Marr Chase is. You guys know how good Ja'Marr Chase is. I'm sure that your resident Ja'Marr Chase manager knows how good Ja'Marr Chase is. But here's the thing, and here's why they might be panicking. There's a little bit of doubt in that person's mind that they should have drafted Tyreek Hill, or they should have drafted Christian McCaffrey, or they should have drafted Bijan Robinson or Stephon Diggs. And that little bit of doubt is going to create a 10% discount, a 15% discount on Ja'Marr Chase right now. The Joe Burrow calf injury is something that I'm not overly concerned with. If you guys know anything about Joe Burrow, you know he is going to go out there and he's going to play through whatever he needs to play through to get his team to victory. And the most recent news suggests that he's probably going to be fine as well. Defensive DVOA for the Bengals' first 2 opponents, the Cleveland Browns and the Baltimore Ravens, 5th best in the NFL and 2nd best in the NFL. So they played 2 tough matchups. Again, if these 2 tough matchups had came in week 9 and week 10 after a great stretch of performing, nobody would be selling low on Ja'Marr Chase right now. But because we haven't had football for a while, it was the first 2 weeks of the season, you can get a slight discount at this point in time. This too shall pass for the Cincinnati Bengals. They played 2 tough divisional opponents after not practicing together for a few weeks because of Burrow's preseason injury. Do not panic if you have Ja'Marr Chase, and if you don't have Ja'Marr Chase, I encourage you to go buy low on him. He's still an elite wide receiver, getting all of the routes, 26% of the targets. Catchable target rate's a little down right now, but once Burrow's playing better, that'll adjust itself. Average depth of target's a little bit down right now. The big plays will come. T. Higgins saw the correction last week, who was on my buy low list. Ja'Marr Chase is the one guy right now that you can get at a slight discount. And by a slight discount, I've circled some of my favorite Ja'Marr Chase trades via the Yahoo Trade Finder. You can see you can get Ja'Marr Chase straight up for Derrick Henry right now. You can get him from Mike Evans and Kyron Williams, which is the perfect example of, selling high on certain players, buying low on others, and also Calvin Ridley and Kyron Williams were sold for Ja'Marr Chase. So again, you're going to have to pay up for him. He's not going to come at a huge discount, but he is absolutely worth the investment. I would still draft this guy with a top 5 pick if we had to redraft the NFL season knowing what we know now. Do not sell low on Ja'Marr Chase, but instead buy low on Ja'Marr Chase. So now let's get into number 2 on this list, which is Jaylen Waddle. And I sincerely hope my buddy Calvin is not listening to this right now, because I'm in trade talks to trade for both of these players. We're trying to work out a heater involving Stephon Diggs and, Ja'Marr Chase and Jaylen Waddle. Right now, I am very much hoping that he is not listening to this video, but Jaylen Waddle is the definition of wide receiver variance right now. You can't tell me that Jaylen Waddle is still not a back-end wide receiver 1 after how this Dolphins offense has played, after what we've seen from Tua Tagovailoa, who is currently the leading favorite to be the NFL's MVP after 2 games. Jaylen Waddle had 7 games of under 12 PPR points last year. So even in his breakout season when he was a back-end wide receiver 1, he's going to have games like this. That's just the nature of the wide receiver position and the fact that he shares the field with Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill had the blow-up game in week 1. Tyreek Hill and Jaylen Waddle both had down performances against a tough Patriots defense last week. It happens. He's still the exact same low-end wide receiver 1, high-end wide receiver 2 for me rest of season that he was coming into the year. The Dolphins offense is one that I want pieces of. Even if this isn't a 70% off discount on Jaylen Waddle, I will take 90 cents on the dollar for Jaylen Waddle, because the Dolphins have been much more pass-heavy this year than they were last year, and that is great news for Waddle. Right now, they ranked 5th in neutral pass rate through 2 games, and Jaylen Waddle right now on the market, you could sell Puka Nacua straight up for Jaylen Waddle. I like Puka Nacua. I'm starting to turn the corner on him a little bit, but I would take Jaylen Waddle in a heartbeat over Puka Nacua rest of season. You could sell Ramondre Stevenson for Jaylen Waddle. You could sell Marquise Brown and Rashad White for Jaylen Waddle, or Kenneth Walker for Jaylen Waddle, or Joe Mixon for Jaylen Waddle, or Dalvin Dalvin Cook and Javonte Williams apparently for Jaylen Waddle. So definitely go out and send some offers for him. Again, define what he is. He's a high-end wide receiver 2, low-end wide receiver 1, available right now for low-end wide receiver 2 price tags, 90 cents on the dollar type of discount. Go out and send some offers for him. Speaking of the AFC East and guys who are coming at a discount right now, we have Garrett Wilson, wide receiver of the New York Jets. It's really weird to be talking about a guy in Garrett Wilson who's coming off of 2 pretty solid performances where he found the end zone in both games as a buy low. But your resident Garrett Wilson manager, I'm sure, is a little bit hot in the pants right now. I'm sure they're a little worried that Zach Wilson is his quarterback and the whole Zach Wilson experience is not going super well so far. Does it hurt Garrett Wilson to not have Aaron Rodgers? Of course. I'm not stupid. I know that Garrett Wilson is hurt by the fact that Zach Wilson is the quarterback. But he went from my pre-draft wide receiver 8 to now he's my wide receiver 14 rest of the season because Garrett Wilson is simply that good. And that's why he can elevate a guy like Zach Wilson. He's had 2 tough matchups versus Tre'Davious White and Trayvon Diggs the first 2 games of the season against probably 2 of the best defenses in the league. And he's still been a top 24 wide receiver in points per game with Zach Wilson as his quarterback for most of that time. There's so much room for this worst case scenario situation that we're seeing with Garrett Wilson to get better because Zach Wilson, even though he's not a good quarterback, he's played a little bit better this year than he played last year. And we have the opportunity potentially that another quarterback comes in, or maybe they're not just playing the Cowboys and the Bills every single week. And the Patriots, of course, this week probably present a similar challenge. So if the schedule eases up, if Zach Wilson starts to play better, if they get a different quarterback, lean into the uncertainty. Remember that you're buying one of the best 10 receivers in the NFL. Garrett Wilson is that talented. He can carry a bad situation. And even though it hurts him a little bit, he's still a guy that I'm going after. He's getting a 30% target share right now, 50% of his team's air yards, and even the catchable target percentage is up from where it was last year, and he's a guy that's going to be involved in the red zone. This is a dude that you need to invest in because people are worried about Zach Wilson, and lean into that uncertainty to get a sizable discount. Right now, apparently, you can get Garrett Wilson for Tyler Lockett. Apparently, you can get him for Michael Pittman. Apparently, you can get him for Kyron Williams in some leagues, or maybe you can get Garrett Wilson plus for a guy like A.J. Brown if somebody's looking to buy low on him. So go out and buy yourself some Garrett Wilson. Maybe you could sell Mike Evans straight up for him as well. Christian Watson is the next guy that we're going to talk about, and the questions that I had about Christian Watson coming into the season were mainly nothing to do with Watson the player, because he showed his rookie year that he's a high leverage, high explosive play type of wide receiver who can command an elite target share. The questions I had about Christian Watson were mainly due to Jordan Love. How good would he be? Is he going to push the ball downfield? And we've seen some very encouraging signs so far from Jordan Love, because without his number 1 wide receiver in Christian Watson, he's looked pretty competent. And again, he also doesn't have Aaron Jones in week 2. And he's still among the league leaders in expected points added per play. Christian Watson was a top 7 wide receiver in games where he played over 60% of the snaps last year. And Jordan Love right now is number 1 in the NFL in adjusted yards per attempt. He's number 4 in air yards per attempt. He's number 5 in average depth of target. He's not a check down Charlie. He's a guy that's going to push the ball downfield. He's a gunslinger. And imagine how this can affect Christian Watson, who makes his money down the field. He's the big play guy of this offense, and sorely this offense has been lacking a big play element to it, and even still, Jordan Love has been able to figure things out. Matt LaFleur is a good coach. Christian Watson's primed for a second-year breakout. Go buy low on him right now, while the unknown factor is still there because he hasn't played yet this season. Apparently, right now, you can buy Christian Watson for Geno Smith, for James Conner, for Dameon Pierce, for Gus Edwards. Maybe you can get Christian Watson in a package deal involving Kyron Williams or Gabe Davis, Rashid Shaheed, some of these guys that are coming off of big performances. So definitely go out and send some offers for Christian Watson. The final buy low of this video will be Chris Godwin, another Chris on the list. A lot of great news coming for Chris Godwin that makes him a good buy low. Number 1, his biggest concern coming into the year was how good is this offense? How good is Baker Mayfield? And I get it, they've played the Minnesota Vikings and Chicago Bears, but I would say overall they project to be better than people initially anticipated. And also, it's a good thing that the fantasy production has not come Chris Godwin's way yet, because it makes him a good buy low. I think it's safe to say that they'll be good enough on offense to support both Mike Evans and Chris Godwin to some degree, which is a far cry from last year's Buccaneers team where Tom Brady looked lost, looked washed. And let me remind you also, Chris Godwin was a top 15 wide receiver in points per game last year, despite all that went wrong for the Buccaneers. Mike Evans has been the guy so far. He's the wide receiver 2 in points per game right now, but we have years of a sample size saying that these guys are very comparable in terms of production. We have years of a sample size knowing that defenses are going to hone in on Mike Evans. They're going to put their number one corner against him. And he has Darius Slay coming up this week against the Eagles and Marshawn Lattimore coming up in week 4 against the Saints. So we could get some Chris Godwin games incoming, kind of course correct the fact that people are viewing Mike Evans up here and Chris Godwin down here. They should be viewed very similarly. Each one is going to have their games depending on the matchups, and Chris Godwin is a guy you can get for a discount right now. Right now, you can get Chris Godwin apparently for like Khalil Herbert or Tyler Algier or Michael Thomas and Tyler Algier or Amari Cooper or, apparently Kenneth Gainwell was sold for Chris Godwin. Maybe you could sell Christian Kirk off of a good week for Chris Godwin, or maybe you can sell Amari Cooper and Rachaad White for Chris Godwin and James Conner. There's a lot of moves that you could make with Chris Godwin. He is available right now on the cheap in a lot of leagues. So now let's get into the sells of this video. And remember, with these sells, it's always about cashing in while the iron is hot, right? If you have a guy on your team that you think is a wide receiver 3 rest of season that the league views as a wide receiver 2, or a wide receiver 2 that your league views as a wide receiver 1, then you can sell high on those players, go buy low on Jamar Chase types and Amon-Ra St. Brown types, Garrett Wilson types, some of the players I've talked about in this video. I cannot believe for the second week in a row I'm about to slander my favorite NFL player, but you have to see what you can get for Mike Evans on the open market. He has gone off in 2 straight games in the first 2 weeks of the season against 2 bad defenses in smash matchups. Mike Evans is a boomer bust wide receiver 2. Always has been, always will be, with Baker Mayfield as his quarterback, but he is going to be more volatile than he was in the days with Tom Brady. He is currently the wide receiver 2 in fantasy right now, and I guarantee you can find somebody in your league that views him as a wide receiver 1 rest of season, not as the boomer bust wide receiver 2 that he actually is. You can get discounts on guys like Jamar Chase, on guys like Calvin Ridley, on guys like A.J. Brown and Amon-Ra St. Brown and Garrett Wilson, guys who I would prefer to have than Mike Evans straight up, no questions asked, and probably with Garrett Wilson and some of those other guys, you might even be able to get Garrett Wilson plus for Mike Evans in a trade right now. You can sell Mike Evans for Calvin Ridley. You can sell him for Josh Jacobs. You can sell him plus another piece maybe to get up to Justin Jefferson. Or maybe you can sell Mike Evans for Travis Kelce right now in your league. You have to be willing to sell Mike Evans if you have him, because he has come off of 2 big-time performances, and that's no guarantee that will keep up week over week. I think he's a rest of season wide receiver too, but don't go crazy here thinking that he's a top 10 wide receiver, which some of your league mates might view him to be if you're in more of a casual league. Keenan Allen is the second sell of this video, and there's literally nothing I can say negatively about Keenan Allen's usage because he's getting an elite target share. He's getting it from an elite quarterback and a pass-heavy offense, but football is a young man's game, man, and Keenan Allen is an at-risk elderly in the NFL at this point in time. The second this guy gets banged up, the second he deals with any kind of injury, it's going to affect his production, so me telling you to sell high on Keenan Allen is not me saying that Keenan Allen's going to be bad the rest of the year. I think he's going to be a top 15 wide receiver as long as he's on the field, but it's simply about risk mitigation. If you don't care about risk mitigation, don't sell high on him. But if you can get a younger wide receiver who's a tier above Keenan Allen or in the same tier as Keenan Allen for me rest of season, that's just simply good process in my opinion. If you can sell Keenan Allen maybe plus a small piece like a waiver ad or a bench piece from your team and get up to Amon-Ra St. Brown, get up to A.J. Brown, get up to Garrett Wilson, hell, maybe you can add a bigger piece and get up to Jamar Chase. It's worth a try given Keenan Allen's production so far. And according to the Yahoo trade market, you can do package deals where you're getting Justin Jefferson in exchange for Keenan Allen and Raheem Mostert. You're getting Josh Jacobs and Chris Godwin for Keenan Allen and Rachaad White. You're selling Keenan Allen straight up for Tony Pollard. You're selling Keenan Allen for Jamar Chase with a package deal. Maybe you can get Jaylen Waddle plus for Keenan Allen at this point in time. So definitely worth noting what you can get for Keenan Allen on the open market. The final sell high of this video is Gabriel Davis. And again, define what they are, determine what they're worth, and see if you can get 110%, 120% of their actual value. Gabe Davis, as I talked about last week, 100% a boomer bust wide receiver 3. Always has been, always will be. He is going to have 5 to 7 good weeks this season because he plays with Josh Allen. He's going to have 10 or 11 bad weeks this season. That's just reality. Gabe Davis plus Brian Robinson right now might get you to Travis Etienne. It might get you to Josh Jacobs. It might get you to Breece Hall plus. It might get you to Jahmyr Gibbs plus right now. Maybe that even gets you to Garrett Wilson or to Calvin Ridley. Maybe you can add Gabriel Davis plus Mike Evans to get to A.J. Brown, or hell, maybe you can even get to Jamar Chase with that type of deal if the guy is panicking really hard. Definitely see what you can get for Gabe Davis after his big performance because he plays for a good team. He has Josh Allen as his quarterback, and he just had a big-time performance. So those are my 5 buys. Those are my 3 sells. Again, let me know any of your trade questions down below in the comments. If you guys want access to our rest of season rankings, our weekly start sit rankings, all the matchup charts that I break down on this channel, definitely check out the link in the pinned comment down below. You can get it for free by signing up on Underdog Fantasy using just $10 and promo code FSE at sign up and first deposit, or you can get it on our site, flockfantasy.com, promo code FSE for 30% off over there. Be sure to check out all of our other sponsors linked down below in the description as well. But with that being said, peace out, and we'll talk to you soon.